Good evening, everybody. Looking forward to this interview with Sean from Carbon Razor Company. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? I'm losing track of the days. But glad you guys could make it. Hope you enjoy this interview. And if there's any questions you want to ask, you will have time to do so. So thanks again for joining. We'll wait for some people to join and we'll go from there. Speaking of Carbon Shave, he's right there. Callie's Groom Room.
Wait for it. Wait for
Hey,
it.
there he is.
Hey!
What's going on, buddy?
Good to see you, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm going to wait for some people to join here, and then we'll get going on it
Sure.
Tuesday evening. How's your Tuesday evening going?
Good. It's a beautiful day here in Minneapolis. We hit 70, which is gorgeous. Yeah, all good. No complaints. You know, it's a beautiful evening. It feels like summer's here, you know, despite
We hit 90 today.
despite the ongoings, you know, it's still strange. But yeah, how about you?
Good. We hit 90 degrees here today. And yeah, we were
Good for
40
you.
just a couple days ago. So that's the Midwest, or I should say St. Louis for you.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Yes, virtual groom room says I'm drinking water. Yes, if you want to call Bud Light water. I've been doing Gentleman Jack the past few nights or the past few lives I've done, and I did one with my buddy Friday and drank 2/3 of a fifth, and man, I'm hurting. So I had to kind of cut back and go back to some Bud Light for a while.
I'm going to do a
You got that?
selfish plug.
Oh, there you go. What's that?
Steel Toe Brewing, St. Louis Park, Minnesota, a local favorite. So it's a
Oh, very
double
nice.
IPA. Yeah, good and tasty, nice burn. You know, all good.
Wonderful. Sean's here, or Nate is here. He said, "Sean, what's up, my brother? Sitting on the
Is
dinner
that
and
Nate?
drinking."
Good deal, Nate. It's a
Well, we've got
beautiful
a few
day in the
people here.
neighborhood.
Absolutely. We've got
What's
a few
that?
people here. So we got a few people here. So let's go ahead and kind of get started on this. So why don't you give a little background story on who you are, your story, and everything about your company?
Sure, sure. Well, Carbon Shaving Company has been in business now for about, we've been designing for about, I'd say 2.5, 3 years. We've technically been in business selling product and offering up different variations since May of last year. So we're about 10 months into this.
Okay.
Really just want to, you know, design a good product. I mean, that if anything, I look at the products that we make is, you know, I had a customer actually tell me this, and I got to tell you, it really hit a chord. A couple of comments. One was, you know, when I look at your product, I look at jewelry. I think of it as, you know, and when I design it, I'm shooting for. I had another customer that said, you know, hey, maybe in 150 years, somebody had posted up an old vintage razor that was 100+ years old, and they said, you know, they hopefully will be talking about your product in that way. So at a basic sense, that's really what carbon shaving is all about. We're really just trying to make some cool products and some unique offerings. So,
Well, that's awesome. So
yeah.
what's up with the name Carbon? Where did you get the name from? Is there
You know, I
any
struggled with
particular
it.
reason?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a name, and it's not the first name of something I've come up with. I mean, it's really very defining, and you know, carbon just kept coming up in all my discussions when I was looking at material and when I was looking at premium, you know, razors out there in the market that were being made. A lot of them were 316L, which is, you know, what our first offering was, and that the L actually stands for low carbon. So again, carbon came
Okay,
up, and then when you look at humans, we're mostly made of carbon, and so once
that's
again,
true.
carbon. And it's funny, it kept coming up in terms of you know, ideating, you know, what to call this brand, and apicathy, I believe, and I can barely say that word twice, but the concept of apicathy is very traditional, and it made me think of a periodic table. And once again, carbon came up, and so that's
That's
really
awesome.
the thinking behind it. But yeah,
Heather,
it's like
Heather from Zingari, Heather from Zingari Man said, "What area are you from?"
me. Where am I from? Sorry.
Yes, where are you from?
Interesting background. I was actually born in Canada. So Canadian, Canada in the house, but I grew up in South Africa. And
Really?
so I was there through until the early 90s, but I've been, and then I moved out well, I was on boats actually on the East Coast for about a year and a half, ultimately going out to California. But I've been in Minnesota here now for about 20 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
where am I from? I'd have to say it's Minnesota. It's the longest city I've been in, lived in, and it's home for me. But that's my background. That's, I guess, where I'm from, but
Got
where I'm
it.
at is this is
Well, I've got a
California.
bunch of questions for you, but the virtual groom room has a question for you specifically. Hold on, let me pull this comment back up. That I want you to talk through your intentions behind your blade geometry.
That question brings me back to prototyping, and I got to tell you, I was all over the place when I was originally trying to design a comfortable razor, playing with blade gap, playing with angle, exposure, and there's some great diagrams, and you see them in the forums that talk about all the different geometry out there, and a lot of it is certainly relevant, but I find that the big elements, the big two that come into the equation here are the exposure and the gap, and certainly angle, but you've got some flexibility with the angle at which you strike it at. But the natural angle is 45 degrees. I mean, I think that's where one would expect to shave, thereabouts. And then you look at refining both the exposure and the gap. And quite frankly, when we launched, I mean, I developed what I thought was the best concept, and it's still my favorite, the CX. But what we've discovered since we initially launched everybody has a preference. There is no one magic
Absolutely.
geometry, so to speak, that works for everybody. And so, yeah, we're looking to expand some of our offerings on that and cater to some of those folks. I think you can go too wide, and I think it can obsess you in terms of how it is. Now, it's fun to talk about, and with the healthy competition that's out there, it's cool to see kind of the different elements and the different logics that go into it. But I think simplicity is important. I mean, I think you can overanalyze options, so to speak, to it.
Absolutely.
But I believe there's a home for three, and I think we can by giving, again, with a certain amount of exposure in the blade, I think you now give a lot of user control that one can simply adapt to what's comfortable for oneself. I
Absolutely.
hope that answers the question, but that's what came to mind as an answer.
I'm sure it does. So you obviously tout about everything being sourced to say. Is there another reason behind that as well?
It certainly, it gives me a warm feeling inside, to source stuff locally, and I think that might go no matter what country you might be at. I think there's a patriotism that you're helping your fellow neighbor. So that goes into it. I truly believe the quality of the material that we make is superior. I mean, I can control it. We are set to a higher standard, I think. And I've discovered this when you do international trade. There's different, standards that are out
Sure.
there. And we're held to a higher standard. You can't really, bullshit that, so to speak. I don't know if I can swear on live, but
Yeah, I don't care. You say what the hell you want.
You can't really bullshit it. And so I have faith for the quality of it, and I know what it is. It's more expensive, but I'm okay with that. I mean, I think it's those are the two that come to mind. Yeah.
Now,
That
my
would be
question for
the
you
logic
regarding
behind it.
that, though, is granted, I'm all for that. And I think that's awesome what you're doing. But do you get any blowback from people or consumers who are looking at your to say, my God, these razors are just ridiculously expensive? Do you get a lot of comments or people mentioning?
Yeah, no, fair question. And by the way, I think where the material is sourced is one of those elements that go into pricing. I think there's the material
Absolutely.
itself. Um, Damascus ain't cheap. It
Yeah,
flat out
sure.
is not inexpensive material. And by the way, when you see that being forged, that's a pretty cool thing. So, I mean, I think there's these, there's certainly the price of the material, but then there's the cost that goes into machining it. Some material is more expensive than other material. I can tell you after going through the process of machining titanium, that is a hard material. I mean, it takes time. I mean, what that means is you slow down the mill, and what that means is you go through more tools. So certainly the material itself can swing costs on it. But also we try to push the innovation. The size of the material. It's a lot harder to clamp and machine a very thin piece of looking at the base plate as an example. That's a lot harder to machine.
Sure.
Small batches. We don't mass produce product. We don't make 1,000, sit on them, and send them out with a penny cost out of it. And so small batching comes into it. Now, what that does is it allows us to bring in cool new things and keep things fun. And so I think there's a lot of elements, but yes, I mean, as my old boss told me, there's no bad products, it's just bad price, and we all want product at a lower price. And, I think, the bar is set, and I'll be the first to admit it, best in class, Wolfman. I saw one once, and I was blown away. I mean, it is truly nice. And so, I think, and his are more expensive than mine. So,
Sure. Well, let me ask you this. Now, you brought up a good point about small batches. So when you do a typical run, what number? I'm assuming that your 316 is probably your best seller.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make a typical batch, how many razors are you making at a time?
In the small side of things, I mean, I'll give you a range. Anywhere from 20 to maybe 100,
Okay.
and there's a whole bunch of variations in between. But for example, our caps, our 316 caps are all very similar. I mean, we try to keep a consistency with that one. And so it takes us the longest to make. It has the longest lead time. And so we'll buy in a bulk of those particular ones. But I'd say 20 to 100 is the most we'll make. And we're tweaking every single time, and so.
So what metals have you looked into potentially doing, but had luck doing it, or it's just not working out the way you want to?
We're trying to push it, and I got to tell you, I think pushing this boundary is good for the market. I think it's good for the company. I think it really allows us to make cool products. I haven't given up on anything yet, but a bit of material that's really caught my eye. And by no means am I saying that we're well down this path, because we have a lot of stuff to do. But Rolex watches switched from 316L to a material called 904 stainless steel. And they actually have their own proprietary blend of this 904 material. But that family of steel, 904, I think is fascinating. And part of it is just a warm fuzzy that, Rolex now makes their watches out of it. But it's super expensive. I think there's one supplier out of Texas that sells it, and so, and we're not Rolex by any stretch. So it's tough to get the material, get it into the size, get them to listen to us. It was funny. I was thinking about, as I was writing our titanium post this morning, I was thinking, what caption is kind of cool and interesting about the product. And something about the material. When we bought our titanium, again, it's U.S. sourced and milled and everything. It might have been mined in Canada, but it was processed here. And it's, you can use it for military and, because they're very strict on their sourcing. But when we talked to the guy, he's like, yeah, no, I do business with, NASA and the material, and the military. And, hey, you're a small shop. Sure, I'd love to do business with you because nobody else is buying it, and so except really high things. And we don't buy a lot of material. Quite frankly, a lot of the cost that goes into it is the machining time. But, why not get some good material out of it? And so, but yeah, to answer your question, 904 stainless is fascinating to me. Cobalt, I think the Darwin, I remember when we were originally, brainstorming about what we can do to make a product. I think it's the Darwin that's made out of cobalt, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a super hard material. And I mean, insanely hard. And so that's one. Those are the ones that kind of have stumped us a little bit, but in terms of material that, one could make one out of, I think some of that titanium Damascus is pretty cool. I mean, that's some hot stuff. I don't know if you've seen that on the web, but it's a Damascus type pattern titanium that is sick expensive, but sick cool.
I bet.
So,
that's awesome. Mr. Spot said he'd like to see some Mokum used. He actually has. He has used Mokum, and I've got the head right here. It looks kind of bad on the camera right here, but yes, Mokum head right here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, I also saw somebody make a comment too, saying that they want to know what your background is as far as like your machining and all that stuff. Are you the one doing all the work, or do you have a factory? How is this all being made?
No, we do all the finishing here in-house. So what we get is basically machine parts back. We work with a small little machine shop. It's about 4 or 5 guys, just north here in Minneapolis. And we give them the design, and we've been working together since the launch. Haven't swapped the guy out at all. I must have talked to about 20 different machinists looking for help, and they kind of laugh at you and, yeah, okay. Because remember, we've got some big players here. I mean, we've got 3M I'm dealing with. We've got General Mills. We got a lot of headquarters here in Minnesota. Not to mention the medical device kind of companies that these guys are dealing with. And so nobody really took us seriously, but we had a small shop, and we work with them very closely. He's about 30 minutes away, and I'll sit down with him and say, hey, what can we do? What can we not do? And he's extremely open to different creative things that we can do. And I got to tell you, that's a linchpin in the business, is having, a good manufacturer. And the fact that he's close here is huge. I mean, I can literally go over there and sit down with him. And again, you bring up cost. I mean, I could go to China with this stuff. Granted, it might get knocked off, and make it for half the price. But where's the soul in that? Again, back to that original. What's carbon shaving all about? And I mean, I don't want it to sound corny, but it really is. It's about making a cool product that 120 years they're going to look. Hey, I got a carbon, and who knows how they're going to be doing it, whether it's an Instagram live. But I mean, there's just no soul in going offshore with it. But yeah, so we do that. We do some some of the stuff that we don't do in-house, like electropolishing is another thing. I don't know if it's necessarily needed, but we think it's the right thing to do. But electropolishing is a process that, in a sense, you put in an acid, and this is for stainless only. Okay. And what it does is it takes off a layer of the steel off of the surface, and it makes it, again, much more durable. It pulls a lot of the elements, beyond the steel to the surface, and it makes it more corrosive resistant. You're dealing with acid and electricity and putting stuff in there, and so that we source out as well. But all the other finishing we all do, and the design is ours. We all in-house. So I know you had a few different variations in your handle, but is this pretty much your staple handle right here? They're pretty much your go-to main original design? It is, but as with blade gaps, I'm sensing there's a lot of people that want different variations. But yeah, that's a good one. But then also our titanium handle as well, which we offer up. Again, designed with the stainless steel. But between that and the R2, which you had, stainless steel, those are our staple offerings. But room for more.
So what was the design? What was the designs? How did you finally pick something that you thought would work?
You know, at some point, and I'm not sure if it did work. I mean, we got a lot of flack from it. I mean, it's funny. It's kind of
Really?
grown on people, and I still like it personally. But well, here, I'll show you this one. This is where it came from. You know, the old it was called the poodle. You know, because it had that kind of poodle shape. You remember the square one?
Yeah.
But somebody on one of the forums called it a ratchet, and for
Really?
what it's worth, that's where the R came from, a ratchet. You know, because yeah, that's exactly. If you look at a ratchet, it's got a good grip. It's very ergonomic. But yeah, that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then the minute we launched with it, we got a lot of feedback, and I had a couple of folks that, you know, said, hey, you know, I like the concept, but maybe round the angles a little bit and maybe do this and do that. And that's kind of where the R2 came from, what you held up. And yeah, and I'm sensing there's even more. You know, people talk about it. I think there was one of the questions on your post that talked about a shorter handle. And you know, yeah, I think there is a home for expansion there, because everybody is personal and everybody has a personal preference. But today,
Absolutely.
yeah, we've got two.
Somebody here now. I know you have copper handles, like I have. But have you thought about making heads as well?
Yeah, we have. In fact, I've got a copper fan out there that really wants one, and we want to do it. Honestly, we've got a couple more things coming, but getting this titanium has been such a preoccupation, and it's funny. You wish the cycles were quicker. In prototyping, sure. By the way, you know, again, with some of the companies we have around here, I can get a prototype back in 2-3 days. But when you're dealing with a larger production, it turns into kind of the month thing. But copper's in there, brass. I think I've had a couple of requests for that. Let's see. Those are the two that come to mind. But again, I can't even think of it beyond this titanium that we just got out. It feels like anything now is going to be. And it's funny, when I was working with the Mokum, which is copper and brass, it was so soft. You know, I'm so used to stainless where you really got to hammer it. And this stuff, I started hammering it and I'm like, wow, I just, you know, messed the whole thing up. I got to be a little more gentle. Copper's the same thing, very gummy to machine, you know, but
it's soft metal.
Yeah, we absolutely, we're looking at a lot of it. I think there's home for a few different options. Maybe a limited run, because I don't know how big the copper market is. And I know there's a lot of fans out there that love copper, but you know, I think copper pieces. Yeah.
Now I'm kind of reading through the comments as you're talking, and so I was talking about like your copper handles and stuff. He does have copper. He also does have a brass variant of the R2 handle. My personal favorite. Now, I don't know if you're still there. Your audio is kind of breaking up a bit. All right, there you are. My personal favorite out of all the handles that I've used of yours is the carbon fiber. Can you give me a little backstory on this? Can you hear me okay? Oh, hold on. I don't hear you at all. Might have to try and re-add you again. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Wave if you can hear me. All right, let's try this again. I think we're losing. Hold on, guys. I'm going to try re-adding him again. We're having some issues. Give me just 1 second here. See if we can get this going again.
We're there.
Oh, there we go. Yep, you're back. Okay.
We're back.
All right, let me repeat it because I don't know if you could hear what I had said or not, but I said my favorite personal handle, which actually surprised me, was your carbon fiber. Can you give me a little backstory on how this came to fruition?
Sure, sure, sure. I love that piece. Um, you know, again, it was very much modeled off of the original R1 handle, which had those two very distinct finger and palm rests on it. But one of the criticisms we had was the inside was too thin, and people didn't like that. They couldn't grip it for whatever reason. And that was the reason why we got rid of that particular material and why it was a lot thinner inside. It was the only, way we knew at the time, or the only realistic way to remove weight out of the product and maintain that balance. So that's how that whole handle kind of pivot point, right at the fingertip, right like that. And so the only way we do that in stainless was to remove that section here. And it's funny, I posted, one of our earlier posts was and we had looked at using composites to kind of, supplement and provide some length to the handle. But when I did a post, you can see it on my Instagrams, we had a guy out of England who happened to work on I think it was F1, is that right? Formula One race cars?
Yes.
And I said, hey, the problem we're having is we don't know how to stick the stainless to the carbon fiber. And the guy gave us some tips about, hey, how the spacing you want to put inside there and all this kind of stuff. And he says, yeah, we happen to use an epoxy based out of, from 3M.
Okay.
And it just so happens 3M is just down the road here. And so we found out what the epoxy was, and I have to admit, I've got quite a few done handles that are all messed up here because we tried it a few different ways. But eventually we got it right. And we were able to keep the weight down by using the carbon fiber. So there was a practical application to it. Plus, it's a high cool factor. I mean, your carbon fiber is just cool.
It's
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
It's just, hey, there is an emotional element to the design.
Absolutely.
So that went. But Brian, here's something that's actually super cool. This one is actually made up of titanium and carbon fiber.
Oh, okay.
So, let me put it that way. I think you can see it. So that's titanium, and then that's carbon fiber in the center. And with the carbon fiber head, we actually got this particular one down to 30, I think it's 30.
Oh, I think your audio dropped out again. Hold on, let's try this one more. Sorry, guys, we're definitely having some connection issues. Let's try this again. I'm not sure what's going on.
Test 1, 2.
Here we go.
Okay. Titanium and carbon fiber now. So
Okay.
We've got this particular piece down to 38 grams, which is kind of fun. Now that's pretty light. It's about 20% less than what we have. The problem is we just can't make enough of these, and the glue takes about what is it, 4, or actually I think it's like 2 weeks or something like that to fully cure.
Oh, wow.
So there's issues with trying to make enough of them, but it's a great design. It's I love the contrast, again, black on silver,
Absolutely.
whether it's titanium. I mean, that's fun. But why do you like it?
Personally, now, if I'm being honest, my favorite designed handle is your R2 here. Something about it screams modern yet classic at the same time. I can't really put a finger on it, but it's like I said, it's sleek. I like the way it feels in my hand. I like being able to put my finger here right in the middle. It's kind of a sweet spot. But when it comes to weight, I've gravitated towards lighter handles over the past couple years. And something about mixing that stainless steel head with this handle here, I've just found to be the perfect combination of your razors. And even though I've got several of them, I keep catching myself going for this.
That's interesting. Yeah, we don't have many out in the market right now. We did a couple of limited edition pieces with them, but It's funny. That's what I use personally. I like the setup. I do like a light handle. One of the questions I know, Mel and Nate, how are you guys? Mel asked a question about a particular length of handle. I think he wanted a 3-inch versus a
3-inch,
3.5.
yeah.
And one of the thinkings behind the design of this is it could allow us to do some customized handle lengths with it, which, opens up, I think, an opportunity for some custom and some, specific catering. But yeah, no, it's a nice handle. I think there's a lot of cool handles that we could come out with, from maybe a traditional one all the way up to, one we never released to the market, but it actually had a diamond on it,
Oh,
which
wow.
was kind of cool, but well, it was a little extreme. But I mean, it was kind of fun to play with, just to kind of
Sure.
push the on things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my other question is for you too. Where do you see Carbon in the next few years? Where do you want to see Carbon in the next few years?
It's a good question. It's a fair question. I look at, can this business scale? Let's say, we make it bigger. Can we do this on a much bigger scale? Turn into instead of small batches, we're making thousands. There's so much handwork in it that I think makes our product special, that I don't know if we can scale it.
Okay.
So that's one side of things. Can you make it into a big company? The second one is, how big is the market? And can we pull some of these plastic shavers over into our world here? And it blows my mind that maybe there's not more in there, but opportunity and crack that code. I think it changes the game a little bit, but I personally like the artistic element of making a cool razor. I like making small batches. I mean, that's really what I like about it. So it's okay not to scale, not to get bigger, not to gather market share and all of this. I think
Sure.
there's a lot of creative work out there. I recognize it's crowded, and there's a lot of cool innovation, new players coming into the market, and I think that's cool. But this business is tough. I mean, it's not, I'm not sitting here making, buying my yacht here tomorrow by any stretch, so despite
Sure.
the prices being where they are, and I understand we're not a discount,
Now, the other thing is too,
there's
when
some
it comes,
cool,
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and there's a lot of cool discounted products out there that I think, are really good, and they're really worth the money, and I can't knock them. I mean, nor can I compete with them, nor do you necessarily want me to compete with them. I'm trying to do something different.
Jay Strom said quality control. No, you're fine. Jay Strom said quality control better with small batches, and I'm sure that would be an issue you would have too if you tried to mass produce them as well.
Very true. It's funny, our returns, I mean, if I look at the past 10 months, the things that, you have your highs and you have your lows. And the things that really hurt me the most is, I've had, and I can count it on one hand, the number of products that have returned to me. Can you still hear me? We're good?
Yes. Yeah, we're good.
And I can count on one hand the number of products that have been returned to me. And those are the ones that just, I feel just shame, because something out of it. But it's not a lot. And it's a fair question, or a fair comment. Quality control is there. I mean, I look at every single piece, and granted, I'm not perfect, but I look at every single piece and make sure, hey, are they going to be excited when they open the product? And yeah, right now I can do that. If I get bigger, I start having to hand that off and to delegate it out, and
Sure.
it's a different game.
That's one thing I've noticed about you too, is you're very responsive. Your customer service is fantastic. If there's an issue or a question, you're quick to respond. You're quick to, take care of that. And that's one thing that I applaud you with too, because like I said, if there's any issue or anything whatsoever, you're always there to help rectify the situation. And that to me, it makes you a master class in this industry. And with being a small company like that, I really applaud that.
Thank you, Brian. That means a lot, and that is important to us. I think it's one of the values about being called direct to consumer as well. We don't go to retail. I've got a small local, and I can literally throw a stone at them from where I live. It's a small jeweler, and they carry our products, and we wanted to look at it, but and they do a great job of it. It's a great showroom for us, but direct to consumer, I think it's a responsibility, and it's something that I think customers expect and demand, and they should. I mean, especially, I think they should, and I think it's new. I'm not saying we're pioneering it by any stretch. There's a lot of great direct to consumers out there, but we look at those and try to emulate what's important. And I think you're right. I think people they want a direct relationship. They want a throat to choke.
Yeah, no, you're correct. But no, that's absolutely correct, because there's times
I'm here.
you're 100% correct. There's times I buy something not necessarily even shaving related, and trying to get a hold of anybody to even respond is almost like pulling teeth. I know I can message you within a couple hours, usually a half an hour, but within a couple hours, I'll get a response from you and the issue will be taken care of. And I think that's great. And a lot of companies lose that once they start going bigger.
I agree. I think you're going to see a trend with this. You already are, where you're seeing a lot of, consumers wanting to buy a quality, maybe something, a lasting product. I mean, I look at my pots and pans and, whatever it is, whatever consumer products we want. I think people are looking at, hey, let's buy something, let's buy it right, let's buy it once. I got to be able to trust it. And certainly, customer service, I think is a part of that.
That's something that money can't buy. Definitely not. Now, my other question for you is, now I know, like you said, what's your entry price point? And if somebody's interested in carbon and they say, I want to get a carbon razor, what is your lowest entry into the carbon family?
I'd say it's our factory seconds at $199. Now, we don't have them all the time, but our factory seconds are, without a doubt, our entry point. And we run those at $199 when we get them. We have customers that reach out wanting it, and we'll ping them. Hey, we got a couple, I got one guy that always buys them. It's funny. I'll put a bunch out there, not a bunch, but I'll put some out there. And this one guy manages to get them all. And
really,
privacy is key for my customers. So I'm not going to share who it is, but I'm like,
sure.
Man, has this guy got like a little script on my website or something? Or how does he catch me?
That's weird.
But $199, then I go to $249 with our 316 stainless, $269 with our 316 stainless and titanium handle, and then as of this morning, $349 with the old titanium. And I want to keep that around. I think that's a great material. That's really cool stuff.
That's exciting, especially because it's going to be super light.
What's that?
I said, I'm sure the titanium is amazing with how super light it is.
It's freaky light, actually, especially when you're mostly, you've been doing with stainless the whole time. Suddenly you're picking up this. I mean, even this, it feels like butter. By the way, I think in my better half, Sarah, who was my guinea pig with some of my prototypes, and I feel kind of bad, but what I would do is I would take all the razors out of the shower, and I'd put my prototype in there, and she would shave with them. It's funny, you think, okay, she wants a delicate, mild razor, and man, for her pits, she wants full aggressive. And so it's a great guinea pig out of it, but she also likes a very light razor. And I have to admit, it's growing on me as well, but I think weight plays a big part of it,
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a beautiful piece. It came out well. Real proud of it.
Are those titaniums available now? Are they already out?
They are. They're on our site right now, and we still have them. They're selling well, but we've got our best shot. Again, we have no sense of forecasting our business right now. I mean, we've only been in business 10 months, and so I've never been through an April here at Carbon Shaving Company, but we took our best shot. We've got some units. you know, again, it's not a huge business, you know, this industry, but yeah, I think we've got a couple of, we certainly have some titanium, and but they're gonna go. So we're real excited.
So now, have you ever considered possibly not necessarily cheapening your brand, but have you thought about maybe doing an aluminum razor or something with a little cheaper material if people want to get that carbon brand and carbon quality without spending even 200 or 250? Have you thought about doing any other alternatives that might help people get into the carbon family?
I mean, do people really want that? I mean, I'm flattered, but there's a lot of good quality razors out there. I struggle with it because I'm like, okay, do we play in that or do we not play in that? Um, there are good shaves out of it, but you know, I tell you where it makes me think about it is not so much the enthusiast community, because I think, and hey, I'll name drop. I mean, you've got Razor Rock that makes just that's tough to beat, that game changer. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it, you know, with the .68 and the .84. And we looked at that, product, and it's like, I mean, what is it, 60, 70 bucks, I think?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great product. I mean, for 70 bucks, that's a solid product. Where it does have appeal, that particular element is to the, I guess for a lack of a word, the plastic shavers.
Sure.
You know, how do you pull those folks in? Rockwell, I think, did a great job in that particular area, but it's not mainstream yet. And so, by the way, Brian, I just put a post on LinkedIn, you know, trying to tout up some awareness around, you know, to these plastic shavers. And so I wonder if price would have some appeal to that. But, you know, I'll tell you, I'm not going to hand sand a $79 razor. It just doesn't, I mean, I just physically can't do it.
No,
You know?
I get it.
I mean,
I get
I
it.
can't do it.
That was purely just me being curious. I was just wondering because I know, for instance, like when I first started wet shaving, I grabbed the like the Pawn Star razor you can get from Walgreens for $30. It shaved, it did the job, and you know it got me into the wet shaving hobby and how to use a safety razor. If I saw your company, I would be like, man, that's a damn beautiful razor, but I can't justify that cost. So I was just curious if that was something you had possibly looked into or thought about.
We still think about it. I mean, because, you know, and it's the consumer that we're used to, and we seem comfortable spending $150 to $250 a year on shaving. Again, I keep going back to the plastic, and it's interesting when you ask that. Am I making the product for the enthusiasts, you know, the community as we know it, or am I making it for the masses, so to speak? And I think there's two different questions. I don't know if the enthusiast community wants it. I mean, do they really want it? Can I
Well, that's
add
something you'd
maybe
have to ask, honestly.
value? What's that?
I said that's something you would have to ask, honestly. I really don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I've gotten the sense they don't. You know, they really don't. I mean, I don't know if they want. I mean, sure, we'd love to have a hand sanded perfect Wolfman for 99 bucks. It's just not going to happen, though. You know, you
Sure.
can't. Yeah, it's not sustainable, so to speak, to do that. But could I make a razor, throw it into you know, a tumbler and kind of get it so it has a rough finish, and then offer it up for, you know, 100 bucks? I mean, that's absolutely possible.
Okay. So what has been the overall reception from the wet shaving community as far as your razors go?
Uh, I got to tell you, it's exceptionally humbled. I mean, I'm not going to please everybody. We're not going to please everybody, but I got to it. You know, back to, you know, when somebody takes a product that we designed, we machined, we finished, we packaged, and when you see them put them up on a post, there's nothing more rewarding than that. So, I mean, if I've made, you know, you know, just look at my customers, you know, and my users, so to speak. So even my customers, and if my customers sold it to another customer and they bought it. So my users, if I look at my users, and I'm really ecstatic if they enjoy my product. I'm not going to please everybody all the time. I think I've been okay and well received. I think I've made mistakes. I don't think they're catastrophic, but I've made mistakes or I've had learnings.
Sure.
Um,
Well, that kind of leads into my next question.
I think I have.
What
I
is
think they
your,
learned me.
what is your, I'd say so. What is the best compliment that you've received from one of your customers?
Yeah, I said it earlier. I answered that question earlier. One that said, "I look at your stuff as jewelry," and
Okay.
again, share it. But this guy, he cherry picked some of my sweetest product, um, and he doesn't advertise it. He's a very quiet individual, and he told me that in the email, and that touched me right there. And then the other guy, and this guy's made it public, but out of Australia, I think it is. But he made the comment about, hey, maybe in 100 years they're going to be talking about your product.
I saw
So
that. That
those
was
two.
really nice. I like that.
Yeah, those
Now, will Moku make a return?
I think on a smaller scale it will.
Okay. Because that one's beautiful. People walk into my shave den and they look at the razors, they're immediately gravitated towards that one.
It's a gorgeous material. I mean, when you look at history as well, I think we've talked about it, and I've talked about it in my post, but, used on the Japanese samurai swords, the Japanese katana, it was used on that to decorate it. And it moved over to Europe and to Paris, where it was used again in some very ornate products. And wonderful material to work with. It's funny, I was working with, in Vegas Forge was the company that put that Mokum together. But I was stuck with a question of, I had brass, copper, and I don't know if I regret this or not, but it would have looked really cool if I had included nickel. Now, there's the nickel allergy that people are concerned with, but nickel has a very distinct silver look within it. And so I could see maybe that being incorporated. Maybe it's not nickel. Maybe I can use another soft material like silver or something like that. But I'd like to see that into it, just to take it up another notch out of it. But I love that material. Mokum, yes, you will see some of that. Some scale come back.
All right, Nate. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us, Nate. Well, I haven't told you this personally, but I still owe you a review video just because of the amazing hardware you have. But spoiler alert, let me give you a little of my feedback on the razors so far. The only way I can describe it is I get the right amount of blade feel with the right amount of aggression. And over the past 4 years of me doing DE shaving, or just wet shaving in general, I've gravitated towards single edge razors. I don't care how much money I've spent. I don't care how pretty it looks. Single edges have been the way for me for the past year and a half. You have rekindled my love for the DE razor. And you are the only DE razor that I will pick up and still shave with. And I don't know what it is, other than I know I'm shaving with something that was, blood, sweat, and tears, made in America, and the passion behind it. But not only that, it's just a damn good shaver. So kudos to you, because like I said, if it wasn't for those razors, I'd still be using single edges only.
Appreciate that, Brian. I really appreciate it. It's it's one of the most humbling. I don't take compliments well, but when I see things like that hits a chord. When I see reviews on our website come through from customers, you're like, man, they're using our product. That's, I'll sit there with Sarah and go, look at this. That's so cool that they're enjoying it. So that's touching. I appreciate it. I could get into the technical side of things. I mean, I like the pinch design. I think that's pretty key in how we make our product, which really stiffens that blade up, which maybe might be similar to your single edge. But, without getting, design.
No.
Crazy.
We have another question. He said, Sean, roughly how many free razors have you given out to social media personalities?
Free razors. I'd say about six, seven.
Okay.
And I plan to give out more. It's
Very cool.
I haven't spent a dime on advertising. I would rather give somebody a product that they go, wow, this is cool, and really, you know, talk about it and enjoy it and see the benefits of it. You know, I've converted a couple of those people from plastic shaving to DE shaving. And yeah, I don't believe in paying for advertising. I haven't bought Facebook ads, haven't bought Instagram stuff, haven't bought Google search words. You know, maybe I should, quite frankly, but we chose to give our product out as a way of, you know, giving people an opportunity. DFS Forum is one of them. I don't know if that counts, but I had the opportunity, and I still have it now. And I can't thank those folks enough on that community, because we donated the product out there. We gave it away. They got to try it. Some loved it. Some had feedback. But they raffled it off, and that money went to support the community. And so I intend to do a lot more of those. I think it's a great way to help it out. Now, the one thing I can say is that I don't ask people to make stuff up. I mean, I don't give them free product in exchange for a good review.
Sure.
I don't play that game, you know. And so yeah, I think it's the nature of business, you know. I mean, and it's the nature of our socialness now, whether it's what we're going through recently or where things were trending anyway. But things are becoming very, you know, transparent. Things are becoming very public, you know. Reviews are certainly making a more of an impact on what people think. And I think
Absolutely.
you've just got to do it responsibly.
I think we're boy, Instagram
Yeah.
does not want us
You
to
guys
go
got
live
me
tonight.
back?
Oh.
You got me back?
Yeah, I got you back. Well, I don't want to cut
do
you
it
off,
responsibly.
but we've
I'll
got
pay for
we've only got a few minutes left. So this is your chance. The red carpet is yours. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Upcoming people can look forward to in the future when it comes to a Carbon Razor company?
You know, I really just thank you for the support. I thank you for the likes, you know, to the customers that have bought. I thank you for giving me a shot. I think for the users. So if a customer sold it to another person, I thank you. I mean, it's I think we're in a world of just being thankful for what we got, Brian. You know,
Absolutely.
it's you know, if I could, you know, thanks to the healthcare workers. I have a customer that's a cop down in Florida. I think he knows who he is, you know, and I'm not sure if he's on here. It doesn't matter, but you know, thank you. I mean, it's, you know, I don't know where this business is going to go. You know, I wish I could stand on a platform and say, we're going to be the next Gillette, you know, but we're just a small company trying to make a great razor. We really are. And I thank you for the time, Brian.
Absolutely. It's an
for giving
absolute
me
pleasure
this
to have you
opportunity.
on. I was glad to give you the opportunity to tell your story, let people get to know you a little more. And like I said, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes behind your company. So I'd say we do this again in the future.
Absolutely. I'm in anytime. Thank you, Brian. Thank you all.
Awesome.
Thank you for those that attended and dropped off. Appreciate you. Appreciate your efforts.
Awesome.
Stay safe.
Virtual Groom Room said he would be messaging you after this live as well, just so you're aware.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good night, John. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, Brian.
Take care. Hi, guys. Thanks for watching. That was great. We had some technical difficulties because it's Instagram and that's what it is, but I think it went very well. So if you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sean. He's masterclass and great with helping people. Once again, thanks for watching. I love you all. Have a good night.